I'm absolutely thrilled to host today's event. And let's start. First thing first, let's give our huge shout out to Suffolk University Sir Business School for hosting this amazing event right here in the heart of Boston. And this location is the perfect launch pad to dive into Boston's thriving and innovative scene, surrounded by the industry leaders and groundbreaking ideas. They have been our amazing partner since last year, and we are lucky to have them again this year. And now, Startup Boston Week is all about connections, bringing together every part of the greater Boston and New England startup community from every industry, every department, and every stage, bootstrapped or funded. Everyone were here, and there is something for here for everyone. We have got a 5 full days of learning and connection, networking, and straight up inspiration coming up all our way. And I also want to highlight that our Startup Boston Week is driven by the passion of volunteers. Yep, most of the team behind this event and those working here today are volunteering their time. It's truly a labor of love, and we are so grateful to you for being here and contributing to the growth of our startup community. And once again, thank you all being here at Startup Boston Week 2024. Let's get ready and dive into our first session today. I would like to start the event, Data Dynamo transforming startup visions into reality with AI and data tools.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Paul Byer. I'm going to be moderating, and we'll do introductions here. I think the headline is the goal here is to have you walk out writing down at least 5 things, if not 10, on specific examples of tools and ideas that can make an impact to your startup here. I've done 6 startups, and the tools available today are transformative, is my assertion, i.e. will save you hundreds of hours and help you validate ideas faster and get the revenue faster here. And I like to organize it in kind of a high level, kind of idea validation, idea generation, build, and sell. But let's first go down the line and do quick introductions. Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, everyone. I'm Sid Probstein. So I'm CTO for 11 ventures, or startups, I should say. And I'm a first-time CEO and solo founder. Been mostly in the Boston area and worked on a few different areas. I've done a lot of work in search and natural language, also application development, some healthcare and devices. So I'm curious about all this stuff.
Hi, everyone. This is Nissan Gandhi. I have been working in AI and data space for the last 7 years, working in a lot of companies up to like pre-seed, Series A kind of space. Majorly, I'm an engineer and product guy. So that's what I'll be sharing today. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jagya. I worked with McKinsey for a couple of years, so worn multiple hats, was a consultant there, then was a business head, a P&L owner of a $100 million vertical in India, and have then forayed into product management and now have a company of my own called Kintsugi, which is in the mental health space. Recently finished my MBA from HBS, and I'm now a consultant with them. So excited to be here. Thanks.
That's great. Let's get a sense for the audience first. Who's actively working on a startup right now? Great. Who has spent more than 2 hours using ChatGPT or a similar tool in the last 3 days? Okay, this is a power user crowd here. Well, how about so we've got an experienced crowd here. What are tools that you guys have seen on the idea generation side that's notable? We'll start with Sid and.
Well, I mean, I use ChatGPT for a ton of different things, and it was instrumental frankly, even the earlier versions in starting Swirl, my current venture. I admit I also use some of the market research tools out there like Northern Light Research, which has its own AI and will answer questions. I've certainly, have to give a huge shout out to Reddit. There are a lot of great subreddits. There's everything on Reddit, but looking at the AI side, there's a lot of really interesting opinion, a lot of great projects and open source projects. And that's where, frankly, I find tools, whether it's like Resume Matcher, which is a pretty cool open source product. You can feed your resume and a job post in, and it tells you like how to optimize it. I found several different products you could feed blog posts into, and it makes it more natural or less natural. And those kinds of things were all instrumental. I made a little list, actually, of some of the tools that Jasper AI, which is really good for content creation. Ahrefs, if you're not familiar, that's one of the best ways to get data about the web, and Market Muse is another one. I think I mentioned Northern Light, so those were the ones that were so.
And when you're doing, are you going directly to those tools? Are you using ChatGPT and creating a prompt and moving over them? Are you using a search within Reddit? How tactical are you?
I have to admit all of those.
Oh,
right? So
okay, yeah.
sometimes you search in Reddit, but then I'll copy and paste individual sections of Reddit posts, or like the README from a project that's interesting, several READMEs, because one of the best things about GPT, especially the newer ones, 4.0, it'll do comparisons, it'll do summarization. And then I guess the real power of it is it always sounds like a sort of very smart engineer-y type person on Reddit. It's because it reflects this like very confident perspective, right? The consensus answer. Yeah. So if you want to know, do people care about problem X? Ask GPT-4. If it says no, then its training data shows it, and it has a lot of training data, that that's something people mostly say no about. It doesn't prove it, right? But it is an indicator. So, and very often, if you can get it to give you citations, right? You say, oh, I like idea X. Well, it comes back and says no one cares about X because of Y. Well, then if you start investigating Y, suddenly you have citations. Yeah. And the thing is, you're not searching kind of blindly for that stuff, right? The amazing thing, and if you haven't used Search GPT, this is what's so cool about it. You don't have to guess at the thing you're trying to search for. You can actually say, like, what companies did IBM acquire? If you do that in Google, you're hoping to find somebody's blog post that answered that question for you. And Google is really great at that. But if I just want the list, like the last 5, how can that be so hard? That's what, that's the kind of collection, aggregation, and research, and even idea gen that does an amazing job.
Yeah, and before let's hover a little bit on that search side. So which tool do you like best for search?
Or to be honest with you, if I'm doing web search, I still like Google, but I think that Search GPT is getting there. But I always go to ChatGPT first. Yeah. Always. Because very often it'll inform the search that I eventually end up running.
Yeah. And if people aren't using Perplexity, that's another one that's high up there. Yeah.
It's not
and
bad.
then lastly, for your job, for your current startups that you're doing here, how did these tools impact it? Did it save you time? Did it give you new competitors? Did it give you insights to customer pain?
It does all of that, right? So first of all, started when you talk to GPT-4 or you use it to find content, that's how you can quickly discover where people are finding problems. Like looking at issues in GitHub is an amazing place to spot opportunities. How many people have looked at like a Python stalwart like Fast API, which is super popular and really great, but has a lot of tickets, right? There's a ton of open issues, and the developer is obviously are busy with other things. So if you wanted to build a Python framework and promote it, there's your opportunity. And you could quickly hone in on, you could literally ask GPT-4, what are the things people are complaining about, and go fix them, or fork the project and fix it, right? Like that's how the acceleration of the idea and the validation of it, because you don't do the thing where you build the baseball field and expect people to come play on the baseball field. You start with a seat and see if you can get anybody to hit a ball around with you, right? And maybe somebody would watch it. And that's the trick, is the AI can help you get that seat or the person who wants to watch a little baseball, right, very quickly.
This Sean, what are you seeing out there for ideas? And then we'll do all 3, and then we'll take some questions and keep it iterated. Yeah.
Sounds good. So normally, I think about like B2B and B2C is a different way how you do the market research. And I've been working mostly in the B2B space. So it's really about like when I'm thinking about, like, I'm right now working on something, and like when I think about doing market research, I'm thinking about, here is the area where I want to focus on. Like, here is the problem which I have I have some expertise and some ideas about what I want to solve here. And then for me, it's like to figure out, is there a valid opportunity out there? Or it's just me who is like thinking in my own head, not. And for that reasons, I think ChatGPT, of course, is the best place to start with. But also there are a lot of market research product out there, especially if you're in B2B space. For example, Gartner is something which I kind of fond of, and they have this magic quadrant. And what you can really figure out is what are the areas which are still underserved from all these marketing research companies. And they also give you a lot of other data. So you can gather all this reporting data to understand like what is the underserved market. And if you have some hypothesis that you want to test, like then you need to go and talk to customers. Like I think at the end you can do all the market research, but until you found that one person, that one customer, or that whom you can convince to use your product for free or charge, it's really going to be tough to like validate the idea itself just by AI and data. It's going to accelerate your process to getting to the customers, finding the customers, but at the end you have to talk to customers and find that one person who is like say that yes, I'm happy and I see this as a problem, I want to solve it. A lot of times it's like one of the idea that came to my mind was I was talking to a lot of companies about they wanted to hire in certain role, and I'm like, everyone is looking for this role, and this can be something new and this can be automated. Then why there is no product out there? I go to Gartner, like, hey, is there any product out there who is serving this particular segment, and do some ChatGPT, like, hey, what are the other companies trying to solve this problem? And then I can figure, hey, there are a few companies who are in early stage who are serving in this and that market, and then you can get kind of good picture about how things are moving, and then you can target where you want to go and kind of start reaching out to customers, try to validate your ideas. So it's again combination of all the tools, but I think it starts with you figuring out which area you want to go first. I think it would be really like if you don't care about the problem itself and you're really invested in the idea or hypothesis, then it's going to be really hard keep going in that direction. So that's how I would approach market research. Like, I know something, I have a hypothesis, let me go and gather as much data as possible and then try to figure out how I can reach the customer.
And Nissan, do you have particular tools you like? Do you have a go-to when you have to research something? Where do you go?
Yeah. I mean, ChatGPT has been great. Before I was using Google just to like figure out. LinkedIn also has been great tool just to like gather and collect the data. I haven't used like any other sophisticated tool as of yet because I've been always guy like ideation phase, talk to people who I feel like might have the problem and kind of try to solve for that 1 and 2% before we go to like bigger markets. So yeah, that's where I stand.
Great, thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Jigya.
Yeah, thank you.
So I use exploring topics mostly to figure out what's trending really out there. And the second thing I do is whenever I have the whisper of an idea, I go to the App Store and I put that into the search. So basically, I can see what kind of activity there is in that space and what other people are developing. I think incrementally over and above what everybody has mentioned, these are the two things that I think of. But more importantly, I think where tools like ChatGPT, etc., based on my research, have proved to be useful is, let me give you an example. There was a founder I spoke to who split with his co-founder after raising a Series A, because 6 months later, they realized that they weren't aligned on the why behind the startup, which is one of them wanted to do it for the reasons of control, that I just want more control over my life. And the other one wanted to make it like $1 billion unicorn, etc. And I think, therefore, when you think about the idea, it's important to maybe even abstract one level further up and think about what your interests are, why you're doing this, and then kind of start thinking through which potential ideas from all of these forums that folks have mentioned. And the second thing I want to say is that idea generation is a big space, right? So there's L1, which is the highest level. So I want to make smart glasses. Then there's an L2, which is you break that up into 3 things, right? What are the jobs to be done? And then there's an L3. When you think about the idea, try not to be at the first stage, try to be at the third stage, because then that helps you visualize the idea a little bit better. And that's where I think tools like ChatGPT and Claude have proven to be very helpful, where you take the idea to the next stage, and a lot of ideas fall through the funnel just when you do that.
Great. I want to share a couple things. I want to open up an idea generation, then we'll go to kind of idea validation. One of the things we can see a lot in our work is that people are underestimating the cognitive ability of these tools. Here's my idea. Tell me the 6 reasons why this is a bad idea. Tell me the 5 reasons to make this a big idea. Here's the idea that I want to raise $1 million on it. Tell me the 15 reasons why VC are going to say no to it. Give me objection handling for each of those 15. Tell me the 6 things of the data I need to go get as validation points to overcome those things here. So I think the thing we're seeing more and more is this, that thinking of this as a co-intelligence and not just a tool like Excel is something that's hard. And in our firm, we do this full time, and we're always asking each other, have you asked the robots? So getting into our dialogue every single day for important stuff, not just routine stuff, is really hard. But within the idea generation, are there other questions or contributions or tools that people have out there that work? Go ahead. Yeah, introduce yourself, please.
I'm sorry, Jason James. I'm just curious which one of these, or which of any of these tools you guys pay for and why.
I pay for ChatGPT.
Why?
I use it every day, 4 to 6 hours a day, from coding to the stuff you talked about, to search, to everything.
Yeah.
It's a massive time saver. But I think the point is you have to use it for what it's good at.
Yeah.
It's not going to correct like my workout form or tell me that the logo is ugly. It doesn't do stuff like that. It doesn't. I mean, it might ultimately, some AIs do, but GPT-4, for the most part, it's going to give you kind of a consensus view from its training data, which is the web plus a ton of books.
Yeah.
And for that, it's extraordinarily good because the web is the world's opinion at some level, at least what they were able to publish.
You guys pay for ChatGPT-4?
So far, I haven't had to.
Yeah.
I didn't have the use case where I'm restricted by what it provides.
Yeah.
And I also tried being like perplexityU.com. So a couple of other I've tried, and I never had a problem with like it is limiting me. I mean, for the coding, yes, GitHub Copilot, but not for the ideation phase or things like that.
I'll give you another. I'll make the solid case. You're doing startup, you have to pay $20 a month. 1, it's monthly. 2, if you're not using it an hour a day, you are missing huge opportunity. 3, you get to the top of the line, so you never have to wait. And 4, the cognitivity of 4.0 is materially better than 3.5. So when you can test it. Tell me the 5 reasons this idea stinks. Put it in 3.5. Put the same thing in the 4. Put the same thing in the Claude. Another tool out there that allows you to compare is chathub.gg. This is a browser extension and allows you to put in a query, and it's 6 LLMs come and give you the answer. So you can go there and say, tell me why my idea stinks. Put it in there, and if you do the paid version, which is 6, you'll see the ChatGPT, the Claude, the large language models. You'll see 6 of the robots' answers for that. So it's a way to have 6 co-intelligences kind of helping there. But go ahead, yeah, please. Tell us who you are first, and then.
Hi, I'm Sagar. I run Fork Dish. We're an AI education company. We've been doing it for the past 2 years. Our main focus is upskilling employees so they don't get replaced by AI. It's like in terms of tools, definitely Perplexity. I have a deep voice.
We hear you fine.
So like in terms of tools, Perplexity is definitely like a go-to, always, every day. If I need something, I'll take a picture of it with a pro plan, 600 searches a day. Ask about it. Stupid questions, smart questions, doesn't matter. That said, a combination that I haven't really heard many people do is, again, it's like ChatGPT and Claude, mix them together. But the reason I'm mentioning it is the best way to jailbreak any AI tool is to use another AI.
Just share what jailbreak is for the people who don't know what that is.
So jailbreak isn't necessarily something using it illegally. It's just bypassing the restrictions that you're facing with a tool. So if you're running into an issue and it's like you're trying to build a solution and you're running into roadblocks, or you're trying to use it as a non-intended manner, it's basically building the story, like writing the right story for it to follow you. Like an example of a jailbreak that's popular this past week is a survivalist story of 5 different people, and each 5 people has a different role, and you're asking it on a 2nd degree or 3rd degree connection. Pretend that you're these 5 people, and it translates, and then it'll write a fictitious role that could go into the very illegal, ChatGPT, but can go into like how to better scrape a website so you can learn how to do the code.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
You go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, so my name is Mark Zhang. I'm running a forum called Boston AI Forums. Now, I have two questions for the panel. One is like using ChatGPT, right? You interact with a thread, and sometimes the session build so
Mark, I think you might use the microphone. Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Can you hear me? Well,
Yeah.
so the first question that I have is sometimes you use ChatGPT and you interact a lot. You build a thread and it's getting very, very slow once you get to a certain amount of data. And how do you handle that? Do you ask it to summarize and create another thread, or what do you do? So that's one question that I have. The second question I have is regarding market research. You do market research, but it's not really up to date. And how do you handle that issue too? So that's two questions that I have. That wish you have some perspective on that.
Great questions. Yeah.
On the first one, which is like tokens and all of the limits that these models have, it's important to think about whether or not you want to use 3.5 or 4 mini. They have different capabilities, and if what you're looking for is a more basic ask, then try to stick to the more basic model, because that will churn out an output much faster. But if your ask is more evolved, then yes, you would want to use a product that's more advanced. I think that's one thing, which is segment your need and understand a little bit about what it is that you're trying to get. And I think in terms of the second question, which is market validation, when these models are trained on static data that have a cutoff point up until, say, 2022, there are lots of other tools that help you do very high quality testing. So if you think about multivariate testing, or just I'm creating a landing page, help me figure out which part of the page is popular with users. And I'm happy to go into what tools there are, but there are ways to do these testings that can help you get more real-time feedback on your ideas, if that's helpful.
Any other thoughts on long context? And
with GPT 4.0, at least, it has a new memory feature. So you should ask it what it knows about you, and you can actually ask it to delete facts and also to reset the memory. So that will reduce the amount of data that's going into that limited context window. Because it probably, I don't know for sure, but my guess is that it feeds the whole thing every time.
And just on the research side, 199 Perplexity, it'll show you the footnotes, the current ones. You also can say, only show me data for the last 2 weeks. Now, it doesn't always get that right, but it will start to narrow it down. Unlike ChatGPT, which is a little slower to search the actual internet. Yeah, let's go here, and then we'll go there. Yeah, please.
Hi, I'm Emma Boris, and I'm a data strategy consultant for seed and Series A startups. And my question is, most of what you've been talking about is, it seems like it's at the ideation stage or pretty early on. Do you find a lot of use for AI tools later on, once they've gotten to product market fit, or they're farther along in their journey?
Wonderful. We're going ideation, validation, build, and sell. So you're helping us. You're moving us along here. So let's move to the whole of the questions here. Let's move to validation here. So I have an idea, validate. Now I want to go. Is this thing real at all? Is it helpful for that? What tools?
I think it's more useful, my 2 cents, because during the ideation stage, you're trying to either confirm or deny your own biases or thoughts. And that's fine. And you should always, as a founder, combine that with real conversations. Like, just because GPT-4 convinces you there are 27 good reasons and only 5 bad ones, that doesn't mean you should actually launch. Go talk to a live customer, and that gives you a little bit of the fresher. It might also help you a little bit about what to say. But once you start having customer engagements, you should be using GPT-4 or any of the other good AIs to look at issues that they open, requests or questions that come in. Actually asking it about the email address that comes in is a very interesting thing to do. That can give you a lot of insight. Like, tell me about this domain. Tell me about, it might know things that you didn't realize. And it can help you produce a metric where otherwise you go, like a founder, yeah, that seems pretty good. I would say we got this one. And if you ask GPT, it says, well, 60% said yes, but of the 40% who said no, then something interesting that you should have paid attention to. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, this is similar to what I said before, that in the validation stage, again, like going to customer is the most important piece here, because AI can help you with accelerating a lot of processes that you need to do before you talk to customers. But at the end, that's where the validation start. Like, and again, as a part of value validation, you can bring in a lot of data, like all these external reports, LinkedIn, a lot of other places you can reach out to, and AI can really help you to accelerate those kind of processing and filtering part. Perplexity or ChatGPT, whatever is your choice of tool is. But yeah, I think at the end you have to talk to customers, and then when you're talking to customers, you're bringing a lot of data. You're talking to them on the video calls. You can extract a lot of insights from those calls. So all these, like, as a part of processes, you can extract a lot of values. But as it comes to like validating ideas, yeah, you need to talk to customers. That's what my point is.
Completely echo that sentiment. You need to be able to speak to customers based on. I've been speaking to 50 founders in the last 30 days as part of the work I do with HBS. And I've realized that some of these transcripting tools like Otter.ai or the transcripts that you get from Zoom or Teams, they're fine like for minutes of the meeting kind of content, but they're not very, very good at, or like the sentiment analysis will be good, bad, neutral, but it's at that level. So there is no substitute. Having said that, I think some of these tools can be super helpful in getting you tactical insights. I'll give you an example. At Walmart Connect, which is Walmart's advertising subsidiary, they realized over time just that the color blue works very well for them. And that has been like linked with high ROAS and high like click-through rates, etc. So I think some of these small insights that may seem tactical, that may slip through the cracks and may not necessarily be linked to the core job to be done, I think can be very valuably extracted.
So that's the idea of validation. A few other things were just, one, you can ask ChatGPT to segment your customer base. So give me 5 open-ended questions, ask for voice of the customer, create a 10-question survey with 3 options each. Give me 5 really compelling reasons to click on this survey. So again, we see keep pushing the co-intelligence to really help drive that for validation. You can also do it for pricing. And the other thing we're seeing a lot more on the transcripts is everyone's so comfortable now after COVID having the things recorded. Record them all, keep the transcripts. And one of the things we're finding is that when I'm talking to you about your idea, so your problem is, so you kind of give a verbal lead in, and then you can just tell the robots, look at these 15 transcripts, only pull out the summaries of when someone says, so the problem is, so you can quickly get, a summarized a set of pain points. But who's got other ideas on idea validation? Yeah, go ahead in the back.
So some of the stuff that you said, my name is Paul. I am a founder at a company called Logistics. We support small and medium-sized agriculture by entrepreneuring, not entrepreneuring through the problems. So you've already answered some of the questions about validate with customers afterwards, of course, right? But customer time is really valuable. And so my first step is I interpret what you're saying, especially Sid. Don't worry, I've reached out to your head of DevOps about DevOps Days Boston next month. But I like the fact that it's about generating ideas and putting ideas on the table. Things that you might not have thought about because your brain's too busy. There's too much stuff in the day. But that just gives us more puzzle pieces. And so now we have to prioritize those. And so even before we go and burn customer time, can you tell us, can some of you wonderful people up there tell us how you prefer your people, yourself, and also people underneath you to prioritize what could come out of those puzzle pieces as the top ones to go touch with customers on? Does that make sense?
It does.
How do we deal with 1,000 ideas, Sid?
So somebody wrote a pretty cool piece about how there's 2 modes when you're trying to solve a problem. I actually would argue it's 3. There's interrupt mode, which is, hey, how do we have X? Okay, so you stop and answer that. Then there's mystery mode and puzzle mode. Puzzle mode, you have the pieces, but you don't know how to assemble them. And in mystery mode, you don't really have the pieces. You're looking for pieces. So I actually have 2 very distinct kind of prompt styles that I use for these 2 things. So a puzzle situation is like, oh, should we pay for X? Should we build feature Y? That's much more of a puzzle. We actually have most of that information around. And there it's about, So I need to pull some data from the GitHub. I need to pull some data from my U-Track system. I'd like to pull some threads from Slack because we do free Slack support at Swirl. I want this email. But it's very different. Now it's like, go through this and what are the main themes? On the other hand, then I need to look outside to the world, right, when I want to gather additional pieces. But sometimes it's also inside. So that's where I personally like search. So there's a prompting to go through and say, sort this out, try to answer, show me what this puzzle is. And on the other hand, it's helped me gather information. Going back and forth between those two loops is ultimately how I think I navigate through the customer question, right? And it helps me, doing that helps me spend the best time with customers, right? Because sometimes I'm in a puzzle mode with a customer, like how do we solve this particular thing they're trying to do? And other times I'm in mystery mode, which is, well, to be honest, like, would you ever pay for this? Just being honest.
Other contributions or?
So in a way, talking to customer, it's expensive. Like you need to reach to customers and convince them that they listen to you. I think this is before that you need to build something smaller and then kind of like put it out there as quickly as possible. So and that's the validation process, right? You build something, you put something out there, get the customer feedback, and see like what they like, what they don't like. And sometimes your vision may not align with the customer, so you also have to kind of select or deny certain customers into your career, into your path. So yeah, I don't think that's gonna be like, once you have picked the idea and vision that you want to work with, then you need to find someone who is happy to be along with the journey, any customer or anyone who want to talk to you, because if you are building in isolation with all these AI tools, and until you talk to customer, you never know if someone want to really pay for it, right? That's the point that I want to drive in. Like, yes, you can do all the market research, you have found this perfect thing, but how do you know that someone is really willing to pay for it until you go and talk to someone and say like, hey, here is what I have built. I think this is the, and that can also help you pivot. If your hypothesis is not correct, you talk to customer and they will say that, yes, I like that, but it's not that big of a problem, but there's something else which is, I think, much more painful. And that's something, might have slipped out because you haven't talked to them. And there are a lot of examples out there. If you like, if you see some Y Combinators or like, a lot of other places, you can hear those examples where they build something, they could just go out there, talk to customer, and then figure out that, hey, this may not be the right thing to build. And, or maybe customers are willing to pay for something else, which may not be exactly what my personal vision is. So, so I would still prioritize, talking to customer and finding the people. And if you are in the industry where, if you're building B2B tools, often you have those industry connections. That's why this kind of events are useful for, to find the people who are willing to give you a shot, and really willing to listen to what you're trying to build and how you can solve the problem for them. So yeah, that's the important thing. Customers' time is important, but you still have to go and talk to them.
Before we go to the next one, which is a product build, two things I'll share that we do a lot of Gen AI training. One of the things we see over and over again is people with 30 years of Google search, you're limited by that. People are forgetting or don't understand there's a long context window here. So you can say, here's 100 ideas. I want to build me a metric or a rubric to grade them all here. Here are the 6 ways I want for each of those with a paragraph definition of each of those. You can put that up front, and then you can put all 100 ideas next to it and come back and rate them here. The other thing we're seeing a lot is setting up interviews. I want you to act as tell the machine what you want. I want you to act as a purchasing manager at Walmart. You're highly skeptical of startups. You're extremely demanding of any new rollouts in the New England area here. I'm going to ask you one question at a time. You can give me one answer to response, and then you get right into sales mode. And you can do that for an hour or two. And it's a great way to actually start figuring new questions and everything else here. Let's have some questions on validation. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm curious, are you guys familiar with U.com?
Yeah.
And how do
UYOU.com. Yeah.
And what are your thoughts on like validating new tools as they come out? How do you do that? What's your process? Is there a strategy? How do you stay on top of that kind of thing?
So one of the way I really think about these things are, I need to get certain things done, and I really don't want to be in the rabbit hole of like trying to find this new and coolest thing and really lose the sight of what really need to get done. So so for example, I just randomly come to know about you.com. Nothing I really reach out for. Perplexity has been in the market for a while now and kind of had a lot of media around it. So that's why I come to know about that. But then I tried those tools and they tend to solve the problem. And I haven't really gone out to search something else because whatever my purpose is getting solved by there. So that's how I think about things. Like, use the tool that is available to you, within reach to you. Like, spending so much time try to find that perfect thing, that best something out there. Sometimes might be you're just going to rabbit hole, wasting your time instead of getting things done.
Go ahead. Take a few more questions. Go ahead, please. Tell us your name first.
Yes, I'm Ryan Kinney, Coder Technologies. I'm a data science consultant.
So you opened up by rattling off about a dozen different AI tools that you have used for different purposes, and I think the first question was about which ones you paid for, but it sounds like you only paid for ChatGPT. So this is a little bit of an AI product validation question. So what would a AI product have to do for you to pay for it if it was not ChatGPT?
That's a great question.
So I did actually pay for a tool called Dex, which was a personal CRM manager, because I just realized that I have 400 unread chats on WhatsApp, and it's impossible for me to just manage the amount of information that's coming through in my life. So I think there are certain things in life that you just place value on. For me, networking is one of them, particularly because it doesn't come very intuitively to me. So Dex was one that I paid for. Notion was one that I paid for. So I think, to your question of what criteria do I have in my mind to whittle down which tool I want to finally pay for is, I think, one that saves me mind space, so that I'm not kind of thinking about some of these things on a day-to-day basis. So outsource all of that tension as much as I can.
As a AI engineer, software engineer, so the core idea is I would pay for the tool that's going to help me achieve my goals and kind of get me there faster. So, GitHub Copilot I pay for because that can get me write my unit test or code out there faster. I also pay for premium features by Jira and some other tools, which help me to automate some documentation writing. So, I don't spend too much time staring at the blank page and kind of get me started doing things. So it's often come to the point that I'm happy to pay for the tool if it's saving my time and kind of help me reach faster or get me things done faster. And I mean, being an engineer, that's what I have choose to spend my money on the tools help me, on the product or engineering, stuff get done.
You've probably heard the other thing that, whatever the free members will pay for, and second, whatever, and get reimbursed in the corporate. Let's one more questions. Way in the back. Is there a question in the back?
It wasn't so much a question, but a comment on what we just spoke about. What I've been using for those sort of skill adjacencies, let's say I have a front-end developer, but I'm mulling over hiring a designer. There are specialized tools now so that your front-end developer can become a rough designer. So if you have a lean startup, you can find these specialized tools for skill adjacencies for the people you already have.
It's a great. Yeah, Galileo AI is another one, fits right in there. Oh, yeah. Let's go to the next question. Why don't you hold on, Mark? Yeah. So that we did idea generation, idea validation. Now build. Now we're going to build this thing that we've got validated and everybody wants to pay for. The tools that can help us here too. Doesn't this stop helping us, Sid?
No, I just disagree. It gets more and more tractable as you get further down, I think, because you're at the end of the day, when you start a company or a venture, you have to bridge that gap. If there's a moment of faith, you can convince yourself only so much, but there's a moment of faith that you have to cover. And no, I don't think you either are convinced or you're not. But once you actually have decided and you start building, then there's a lot more tools. GitHub Copilot, heavily used in the creation of Swirl as an example, but just have to be very cognizant of what it's not good at. Like the code it generates to do that generic OAuth 2 connection is not likely to be generalizable. It's not likely to be robust. It's terrible at putting exception handling in. It frequently makes mistakes around. So you want to be careful. Use it to help speed up the engineering work you're doing, right? Like instead of manually going and reading what are all the possible exceptions, have it suggest the top ones and then look at those and quickly from a sample code. You move so much faster. So at build time, another one, image generation, blog posting, when you're trying to attract attention, SEO is another one, analyzing customer issues. Those are all amazing. Generating documentation. Those are all things that you should not. You should be nowhere near what it was 10 years ago to do those things.
What
Nowhere
other tools on the build side have you guys been impressed with?
Yeah. So coding is one piece where definitely there are a lot of use cases that easily solve, and you can really build stuff faster now. Also on the like sales and marketing side of things, you can really generate content really faster now and put it out there. You don't have to worry about copyrights now because you can build your own AI image now, without worrying too much about filtering all those things. And really, also other thing which I think of is also AI has opened up opportunity for building the features that never existed before or capabilities that never existed before, and it really helps us to kind of introduce like, hey, here is the totally new thing, and all the legacy system doesn't support that, but because now that there is a AI, we can now do that. It could be anything like, of course, summarizing kind of creating kind of is the easiest path, but also, for example, you can now offer, hey, you have all this data, I can offer you, let's say, predicting insights kind of features now, like, you're sitting on all this data, and I can put something on top of that kind of like, add the new capability for you to like, whatever use case you're trying to solve, either either pass down this new capability to your own customers, or you want to use internally to reduce the cost or whatever else you want to do. And also with the data, I think it's really important that we collect as much data on the product itself as well when you're putting it out there, to really understand what is working and what is not. B2B, it's easier in a way that because you can talk to customers and they can like tell you what they like, what they don't like, and you have that real conversation. But when in the B2C phase, you're really relying on like, you don't know what customers are interacting with, what they're liking, what they're not liking, and you can't talk to like all the 1,000 people that are using a product. But data really comes very handy in terms of like what they're working on, and sometimes going more sophisticated on those kind of things can help you to understand like where people are spending most of the time, is what kind of use case they are mostly using on, or if there are some forums where they are leaving the reviews, so kind of looking at all those data points and kind of understanding what customers are really looking for. There are also a lot of product tools out there which you can integrate to kind of collect all the insights that is either directly or indirectly in the B2B or B2C any stage, and use all these data points together and really you can your roadmap to the product, you can really prioritize based on what customers are really asking for. In my previous companies, we've been like collecting all these customer feedback. Either it comes from different channel, if you have customer Slack, Slack channel set with customers, or any kind of ServiceNow kind of tool, customer service folks talking to customers, gathering all this data, or our pre-sales or sales folk talking to customer, collecting all this data, gathering all this data, and really try to understand what are the major ask for the customers, and you can also put a dollar value on the customers, like, hey, here is the customer who is let's say paying us $10 million, and here are the features that they are asking for. So also in the retention phase, you can figure out what are the continuous ask by the customers, and you can prioritize those things, put some effort value, dollar value on like what is ROI going to be if you implement that. So collecting all this is very important, and all the matrices that your business really care about, like really be very cognizant about when you're building a product. Also putting all these matrices to collect the right data, so that you understand that is your product doing the right thing, and if you're missing on some insights that is not obvious as you are building the product. So that is very important. So yeah, data is really key. Once you start going to execution phase, collect as much data as possible. Use some advanced tool like Amplitude is one of those, if you want to go beyond Google Insights and things like that, to see where customers are really struggling, and why it is making so much and also opening certain channels for the customer, so that you can also collect the feedback in early stage. Really useful, because that will help you to guide your path towards how you want to build your product in the future. So that's very important. So main key takeaway here is like, collect as much data and leverage the data to understand how you should build the product and what should be prioritized.
Solve the problem and capture the data. Are those
Interesting that you bring up B2B versus B2C, because what I've noticed is that when you're developing enterprise solutions, the solution tends to be more bespoke. And the more bespoke your offering is, the more is the need to have engineers on board. Versus B2C, typically, like at least for you to get the early prototypes out, you can use some of these tools like Bubble, etc., that are relatively low code and no code. And I think this is what you were bringing up, Nishant, before the panel started, that there's a trade-off between customizability and speed. So you want to think about, if you're going for speed, then you want to go for tools like Bubble, Canva, Claude Artifacts, very, very good for like quick bot generation, Figma, Zapier, all of them help. But over time, I think as you start to build the product out and it becomes more mature and more customized, then I think the role of AI is less in product formation per se, and more in the insight generation that Nishant mentioned. So I think the role of AI, or the leverage that it provides you as you scale, changes.
The other thing I'll share on Cursive is another company that's coming out. It's hot right now on the code building. I think on the generation, on the requirements side, it's fabulous for developing use cases with extra criteria. So develop 5 use cases for my Jira, give me extra criteria for each one of them. Still have human in the loop here, but you can really accelerate the translation of customer needs into written requirements before you head over to the engineering team. And the last thing I'd share we're seeing is the combination of offshore and AI. So stick what you need up on Upwork or some of those, ask for somebody who knows AI to do it. And you're going to find someone in Pakistan or the Ukraine who's working like crazy to understand these tools here. I continue to be amazed that people are underestimating, underutilized the value of these global tools here. There's billions of people that want to code for you, and we just got to connect them here. Any other contribution? Yeah, go ahead on the build side.
Sorry, to counter that point, one issue with doing that is AI will give you a bias based off of the code language that you're doing. So if I'm talking to you with an American US keyboard and asking for an image generation 0 shots, I'm going to get an American image. As in comparison, if I'm talking to someone who's a British English keyboard, I'm going to get more British AI results. But before that, the question what I wanted to ask you guys is that MVPs, right? Before AI, MVPs were told to bring out the startup vision to like focus on 70%, the remaining 30% will come out later. Right now with AI, given how fast we can build the tools and build MVPs, I feel like the standard has risen a bit, in which it's no longer we need to focus on bringing out an MVP, because everyone can do that within a weekend. What level do you think the MVPs should be at for this startups in this room that are looking at building and bringing their ideas?
It's an excellent question, yeah. So what's a threshold?
I reject the idea that you can build an MVP over a weekend. I've tried to do that so many times, and you end up, what you do is you have a great learning experience. I think the thing that's different about AI, and I do agree though that there's a difference between the 70%, is you can often, because of the way AI presents, you should be able to show your idea with 1% of the effort or way less. For example, 10 years ago, or actually I'll just use Swirl as an example. So Swirl is software you can install it's software you install in your own environment. It creates like a Perplexity for your internal data. It doesn't do web. It's not designed to do that. Okay, so how am I gonna wire that up? Well, you can start, if you look back 10 years ago, and since I've been at this a while, I made the classic mistake of doing the same dumb thing that I've done a million times. Built a search form. Actually, the power users really like the search form. But you know what everybody else wants? Just a chatbot. No forms, no dashboards, no search button, no activity monitoring, no history. The stuff, the stuff in ChatGPT would be cool, like if I could go back to my previous chats. But as soon as you realize that your application is in the dialogue, you all of a sudden have the ability, what if I don't even have a UI? What if you talk to me through iMessage or WhatsApp or Microsoft Teams or another chat system, right? But that is what, 1% of your product? No UI, no dashboards. If you can't get them to like it that way, maybe there's a problem. Yeah. Really, and that's what changed, in my opinion.
Great point, yeah. Go ahead, Mark, and then go in the back. Yeah.
Yeah, so actually, so again, Mark, I have a question. After listening to Jaria's sharing that you interview CEO, 50 CEO, in a week, and that will be a really cool data set I'm thinking about. Is basically you can using those real data to go through ChatGPT and interact with the ChatGPT from like idea generation to idea validation and even like implementation, and see like what kind of like knowledge inside the ChatGPT actually spill out and compare with the real life experience and see whether there's some consistency, and even be able to develop some kind of model down the road to predict likely what kind of like a startup could be a successful one using the approach developed through this kind of algorithm. So that's a kind of like after listen to you and thought about the process we just went through. That's why I want to make this comment, and someone here may could using the idea to develop something. I don't know. So, but
I think Y Combinator's try to do that, which is to come up with a predictive score on which startups will succeed because they receive so many applications every year. And I think the idea behind that, also to the point that was raised earlier, is it's difficult to do that because there are so many variables that make a startup successful. Some of it is just like the data and the idea and the team, which can be like quantified and analyzed, but then there's so much outside of that: the people you hire, your relationships, your access to the market, networking, all of that. So I think it's a little difficult to do, but Y Combinator is trying to do it, so I think you may want to see how they do that. But additionally, I think to the point that was raised earlier on what the competitive moat really is for startups that now all have access to the same AI tools, everybody can build a prototype very quickly. I think the question then is, how do you differentiate yourself from the next person who can make an app in 2 days or a week or a month or whatever it is? And I think that moat still probably lies in the people, in the relationships. The moat lies in the data. So the quality of the data that you're building, how localized and niche it is. And I think finally, privacy. So as you think about an MVP or the product that you're trying to create, try to think about the moat. That AI is like a tool to get you there faster, but the moat still has to be something that's different. And I guess an NPS score or like a repeat rate is a good way to test that.
That's great. So we have 10 minutes here. So we generated ideas, we validated one, we built it. Now we've got to sell this thing. We've got a handful of customers. Sid, what can AI still help us on the selling and marketing side?
Absolutely. The effort to build a website, to make sure it has the right terminology, the right language, to have many different languages if that's necessary, to have pages for different roles, different industries, different buyer types. It's all relatively straightforward to generate, and there are a ton of tools out there. We mentioned some of those. Another one is, do people believe that responding quickly to an inquiry is really a defensible moat for startups? I would say it is. I did an experiment recently where I contacted a whole bunch of different third-party developers, offshore developers, and I actually picked the one that responded most quickly. Anyway, but why would we don't need to have humans do that, do we? Do you have humans responding to every inquiry that comes to your startup? Should you? Even an okay response instantly would be a lot better than, hey, how you doing? Sorry for the late reply. It's my least favorite phrase, and I use it too often. So that's my 2 cents, right? It's incredibly powerful when you have validation, you have a product, and you start to get feedback, or you want to start connecting more people with it. Which websites are most like mine? Which ones talk about the same themes? What are those themes? Right? Could you give me a JSON dump of the most important keywords?
Other ideas in sales and marketing?
So I think in the similar tone, there was a phase when I was working on a startup and I didn't have any dedicated sales for people, and I had to do it all by myself. And I would really wish that ChatGPT existed at the time, so I can create all these processes and documentation really fast and put it out there in front of customers. So again, sales really happen person to person, especially when you're B2B space. And a lot of what matters is your connection or your sales folks' connection to other companies, whoever is a decision maker or buyer of your product, or whatever vendor you're representing to. So that's always there. And what is going to accelerate is when you are really starting up, you are scrappy, you have a limited amount of time, and you want to build so many things. and you don't have enough manpower to build and write all these documents and prepare all this customized stuff, you can really use that. Also, recently for the sales folks, they've been using customized videos to like send it like video message, like themselves recording themselves and like talking about, hey, here is how we can help you do that, instead of just using text. A video is another format, and a lot of other tools are out there that can help you to like customize things, and you record one time. And AI tools, I think Cynthia was one of the product I looked into for a sort of time, where you can just record yourself and then customize how you want it to be when you're talking to kind of personalized for different customers, your video call or your video recording of yourself trying to sell them to the product. So some of those tools can help you. But at the end, like I think all is going to help you to be more like generate the content in faster, be able to customize better instead of writing the common thing. But at the end, you have to reach out to customer through the common, like all your network as well, especially when you're starting off.
There's a phenomena in advertising called ad blindness that is now coming up, which is that users increasingly look at websites and they don't see ads anymore, even though they're like native to the web screen. And the idea is that now there's so much digital clutter that digital advertising is becoming extremely expensive, and the cost of acquisition now is becoming higher on the digital end, which is why like Sephora now sends you small placards in your mail and things like that. And therefore, one contrarian view could be that, yes, the role of AI could be limited because of this ad blindness that's coming in, or because of the data segmentation and targeting rules that the GDPR convention lays down. But what's interesting is that as a result of this, there are different forms of marketing that are coming up. So omnichannel is becoming bigger. Email marketing is making a comeback. So there's a tool called MailChimp that one of the founders I spoke to used and found it to be super helpful, because now those one-liners drive more of a message than some digitally native picture in a website. So I think the nature of advertising and sales is changing, but the scope of AI in that sense is still high. So that's one part of selling. I think the other part of selling is about going to investors and people. And I think in that regard, for early stage founders, pitching tools have been very helpful in getting buy-in, not just like to investors, but getting a co-founder, hiring the right people for your team. And tools like HeyGen or a pitch dot, I think it's called pitchdeck.com, have been super helpful.
A few other things we've seen, and we'll open up questions, using AI to generate compelling subject lines, particularly if you try and get the email return for the second time, put humor in the subject line. You can create 400 blog posts easily. If you want an SEO actualization here, Gartner estimates that 25% of Google search is going away in the next 2 years. If you start looking at what's emerging over there, it's moving from the search paradigm to the answer paradigm. In answer paradigm, you need to frequently ask questions and others at the end of your blog post. You can have ChatGPT do that in seconds here. So lots and lots of ideas there. Let's go ahead. I'm going to new people to the left of you, behind you. Yeah. Go ahead. Thank you. We get some new voices, please.
My name is Michael Satao, and I have a question about products that are already built. Are you guys seeing any good tools to help refine the customer advisory board experience? So how do we take the product feedback and then dump that back into product management quicker, better, faster? Are you seeing any new tools for that?
I think any kind of if you already have product management tool or even task management tool, they will have some extension of that. I have used Jira Product Discovery to do all that, but I think there are other tools out there as well. It's just based on what ecosystem you are in and what you are already using. And if you're an established company, you probably have some. So just find the tool that is available in that ecosystem.
So hope we started, the headline was, these tools are amazing for startup, whatever spot you're in. Hopefully we've demonstrated that to you today and given you some points on it. And let's thank our panelists, and we'll wrap up. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you, 4 of you, for having an insightful session over here. And thank you, everyone here, for being here. We have still get some epic session ahead in the same hall. If you are here, and also we have a welcome party which is happening at 6 p.m. right here at Suffolk University, presented by HP Enterprise. It's going to be a
It's
Good.
It's an AI meta
Over
search
here,
engine that
so
lets you
don't
have a
miss it.
conversation